Well, I can tell you it's another beautiful day in paradise. And I have a few other things that I'm going to talk about rather than my putterings. Is that a word? Putterings in the garden. Um, because my day job is about broader landscapes. And so is my evening job. I wear a lot of hats. And I'll show you one later in this video. So, first of all, if you hear any wind, it's the Diablo winds of Northern California kicking in. It's really warm right now. In fact, I've got a sweatshirt on that's probably a little too much protection. It's extremely dry. These Diablo winds come from the east and blow into the Bay Area, drying everything out, which makes it a very hazardous situation for fires. That's been happening for a while. That's not why I'm here today. We might talk about that a little bit later. Two of the most exciting things for me to do is not only read a landscape. That's something that I mentioned on my website. Reading is interesting. I'll get to that. The second thing is seeing landscape change. I'm going to talk about that as well. So for reading the landscape, I don't mean something that you might watch on RuPaul Drag Race where they read each other. Can be truthful and painful. I guess maybe maybe sometimes that will be my take on the landscapes. But also understanding what is here and acknowledging that a lot of people have plant blindness. That's actually become a term among theorists and landscapers alike, if they're in the know, and that is that people are blind to the landscape. So watching these videos, you are quite literally going to see whether or not you see what I see. That's definitely up for discussion. But the other part of this is landscapes of change. And so what I'm showing you here is we're at West Valley Community College. This represents my night job, which is teaching students landscape architecture subjects. And they have gone through, or they're in the process of going through, a lot of change. I'm going to just stay here, not go too far out of bounds here. And you know, this landscape, the older part of the landscape was built back in the, I believe, the 60s, early 60s. And there are some challenges because the way landscapes were designed then is really not how landscapes are designed now. So certainly the older landscapes, in fact, here, you can see. Please remember, you know, this is, here, we can just go here. This is Northern California, and part of the old landscape is right there, where we see lots of lawn. That's over there, way over there. Lots of lawn and crepe myrtle trees and some evergreen trees that are not native. And yeah, that's kind of, you know, there are some redwoods, but you can see particularly that one is hurting to say the least. And in fact, I don't know if you can see it, but right there is one that's dying. So yeah, the old landscapes represent ways of what we thought about landscape at the time, which means that we can grow anything because we live in California and we have plenty of water. That was the old thought. But now, and this is why we're here, we're looking at the change, and clearly, I haven't spoken to administration, but clearly they're making some major differences into the modern landscape. First of all, check out these cool little seating stones. I think I'm going to try to find out who makes them, not for myself, but just as a point of record, because they're very cool. Of course, this is COVID, nobody's here. It's good for my videos, but bad for the social construct of academia. But I can see, I mean, look at this. Isn't this great? I would love to meet, in fact, I have in the past met my students here where we would chat for a little bit and then move on. Anyway, what I'm seeing here in the new landscape is a lot of native plants. In fact, pretty much all of this is native. And I'll talk about those plant species in later videos. But what I'm here for today is to talk about the other hat that I wear, which is my day job, not here on campus, but in a local municipality. Because one of the things that I do, see if I can put this in here. Here, I'll turn around. It's quite literally, I'm a certified stormwater inspector. Now, what does that mean? No, I do not travel the world and follow FEMA wherever there's been a flood. What I do, however, is look at facilities like this one. Again, not on campus, but in the municipality where this type of structure is being built. And it's actually being built everywhere in the United States because it goes right up to the Environmental Protection Agency and the Clean Water Act. So that's a whole other subject. What we're looking at is green stormwater infrastructure, or GSI. What that means is that whereas traditional buildings, like this one, would have downspouts from the roof going into the landscape or even into an underdrain and then just taking that stormwater out to another location very fast and uncleaned, by the way, GSI will take probably the water from this building, this new building, and take it over to this rain garden. That might be another term that you're understanding. So I'm going to stop for a moment because there's going to be people coming by and I want to mask up and have you just listen to me. Okay, let's start where we left off. So GSI, green stormwater infrastructure. So it takes the water from the building and places it into this rain garden. And what this rain garden does, essentially what it does is it takes the water, it infiltrates through the soil, and it goes to an underdrain. Any that the soil didn't capture and keep will then go into an underdrain, and it will go in an underdrain clean. So by the time it hits our local stream, which is Vasona Creek, and goes out from the creek out to the bay, eventually the water has been cleaned before it even enters those creek areas. So how does that do that? Let's pick it apart. There is, I think, this structure, I bet, is a clean out. Oh, there we go. This thing here. This looks like a clean out, so if there's ever a problem with it underneath, that you can inspect it and see if there's something that needs to be cleaned out, if something got trapped. And over here, this is called an overflow. And in fact, I don't know if you can hear, but I'm actually hearing some water. Okay, so there's water actually flowing through it, and that could be from the landscaping itself, since, oh my gosh, we have such a paradise day. No rain at all. So it's not coming from the roof. These are the things that I have to do, especially during the summer. The overflow, when certainly we can hear the water flowing through it, so that means that there's water going through somewhere in the underdrain as well as the soil. And it's raised just above, you can see, there we go. It's raised just above the soil line, and that's because it's intended for this area to pond the water, and if there's ever a problem, it can overflow into the drain if needed. But essentially we want the water to pond in here. That allows it to slowly infiltrate through the soil. And what takes care of that but these plants here? So this is, in particular, this plant, I should get out of the sun or face the other direction. This plant is called Juncus patens, which is a rush native to California. So we're creating the benefits from using native plants. It's actually creating habitat. I have seen, and I actually hear, birds coming through here. But also the plants take advantage of not only the water that's coming into this facility, but also taking advantage of the root system taking up some of the pollutants and helping the soil clean the water. It's very rare that I actually have an opportunity to talk about this, so if it sounds confusing, let me know and I can clarify. But what's important about this is that because this is coming from the federal government and it's supported by the state, new developments like this brand spanking new building are required to put these structures in. When they become a certain size, they have to mitigate the water runoff so that it is captured, and by the time it enters into a creek, it's as if there was no development here at all. Okay, so what we're trying to do is create very heavily engineered, but still create an environment where we are returning the space as much as possible to its original clean water systems. Oh, let's see, what's that? Oh, that's an Asclepias, which I think, I wonder if it is. Gotta get a close-up of that. It's hard to see from here, but it looks like something monarchs or butterflies would like. Anyway, okay, so, or maybe it's an aster. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked. Okay, so when you go out and about in your own hometown and you see new development, so like a new retail establishment, like a commercial strip, or a residential development with tract homes or condos, they're going to have something like this. I'm going to try to back up so you can see the whole thing here from the shade. So parking lots, new parking lots have it. I know that there's a number of them all over California. And in fact, there is one here. So I think what I'm going to do is stop the video and go over to one of the parking lot GSIs so you can see what that looks like, because those are more common than these rain gardens. Okay, so actually before I close out, one thing I should tell you is that rain gardens or GSI is often related to a compliance for the Clean Water Act. There's municipal permits and about managing pollution and da-da-da-da. I won't go into all of that. But basically there are compliant ones, which I believe this one is, and there are ones that are non-compliant. The non-compliant ones are the voluntary development of, say, putting in a rain garden at your own home. You know, it's not necessary. It's you volunteered to do it, and you want to contribute to clean water by connecting your downspouts, not to the engineered municipal drains, but to the rain garden where it could do essentially what I described here. Okay, so let's go and look at the other garden. There's another one way over there, beyond that little wall. But let's go look at the parking lot. Just had a lovely walk, you know. This is another thing why I'm doing it. I have a Fitbit. So I'm being forced, so to speak, to get out and do some walking. Oh, okay. Not that I'm forced. I'm actually really enjoying this. All right, so this isn't a parking lot per se. This is a main entrance into the college, but this represents what I see a lot in parking lots as well. And that is GSI that captures the water from the street, right? It rains, the water is captured here, and then if you see these cutouts in the curb, there are ever so often, based on drainage calculations. This will then allow the water to enter into the facility, which is this planter space down the middle of this drive. We have some beautiful birch trees, paper bark birch it looks like, and there's some shrubs. What do we have here? We've got, looks like we've got, some juncus coming up. You can see it's this little grass here. It's kind of spreading about. And we've got, not my shadow, this other greenery is, it's a ground cover form of our dwarf coyote brush, or Baccharis pilularis. I don't know if it's Pigeon Point or Twin Peaks. I have to look at the plans to find out. So here we are. The water is being captured in there. The birch trees take advantage of it. The shrubs take advantage of it. And it gets cleaned in an underdrain probably. Some of them don't have underdrains. In fact, we try not to have underdrains if the water can percolate through the native soil and go back into the groundwater. Clean, of course. And so I don't know, the dynamics of this particular one, but I think it's pretty cool that we have new landscapes like these, like this GSI, excuse me, that are doing more than just being pretty, right? So the previous older landscapes was lawns, certainly for not only hanging out with your academic friends, that's totally fine, and doing sports and all that. Lawn has its purpose, but it doesn't have to be everywhere. And so, nor do, ornamental shrubs that are just sitting there doing nothing. Sure, there's some benefit to them, particularly if they're left to their natural state. But You know, here is an opportunity to get double duty out of the landscape. We've got the attractiveness of the trees, you know, creating this formal entry, right? But the trees and the shrubs and the grasses in there are absorbing pollutants and water and cleaning it for us, so that by the time the water enters the creeks and moves down, it's clean for the fish, you know, and maybe one day, or we can do fishing again. Be kind of cool. Fishing, I would say, in healthy landscapes. All right, that's my take on GSI, and I'll probably show you other examples as they come up, because there are very different. And I think once you've seen this, particularly when you see those curb cuts, you will start to recognize where GSI exists. Have a great day, people. Keep that water clean.